Hello everyone, my name is Sharel Mars and I'll be presenting on the topic Technology and Social-Emotional Learning in Distance Education. Social-emotional learning is the process where students acquire and apply skills that will help them to understand and manage their emotions, as well as help them to communicate and interact with others. These skills that they learn will help them to become good members in society and help them to understand how to deal with persons. Social-emotional learning goes beyond the classroom. And according to Castle's framework for social-emotional learning, the school, the home, and the community are involved in teaching students social skills. The 5 core competencies of social-emotional learning by Castle are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and relationship skills. All of these five core competencies will teach students intrapersonal and interpersonal skills that will help them to become good and successful adults in society. Before the pandemic, students and teachers were involved in various activities that saw them engaging with each other, whether in small groups, greeting each other, shaking hands, giving a hug, and so on, playing on the playground, engaging in sports. And over time, they built meaningful relationships and became a support system for each other, where they would talk stuff out and give each other ideas. They even had opportunities to practice social skills that they learn in school or at home or in the community. So they were given opportunities to do that. But when the pandemic hit, everything changed. Students are no longer in the classroom, but they're home behind computer screens or laptops or even a phone. So we transferred from face-to-face classroom to a distance education where students are learning from home and there's no physical contact between them and the teacher. The COVID-19 has really impacted social-emotional learning, and I've identified 3 ways it has impacted social-emotional learning for students. 1, a lack of additional support systems. Students are at home, and before they depended on the school as a support system where they had their friends that they could talk to or their teacher, but now they're at home and now that's their only support system right now. And some students do not like to talk about certain stuff with parents or even their siblings, but they would rather do it with a friend or maybe a teacher. So that's one impact. The second impact is limited real-world experiences. So they're at home with their families, and most likely their family members share the same ideas and views as them. And they're not being prepared for when they go out into the world and meet persons who have different views from theirs. And that could be challenging for them if they're not prepared for something like that, and could affect how they see themselves or even how they interact with persons in the future. The third and final impact that I identified is less intimate relationships. And this is because now students are at home, they're behind the computers and the phones and the tablets, and they're not able to form relationships in person or through physical interaction that will cause them to build that strong connection to actually help relationships to last. But now they're behind the screen and they're forming relationships there, but there's no guarantee that these relationships would last, because there's no foundation or no connection that's really built. Because as humans, we are social beings, and if we're not able to socialize and interact with persons, we're not able to really form strong connections that would help our relationships to last. Studies have shown that social-emotional learning helps students develop physically as well as mentally. So if students are not engaged in social-emotional learning, even in distance education, then it could affect their education. So we can ask ourselves, how can we as teachers leverage technology to support students' social-emotional learning in distance education? What we can do is use the technology that is available to us and the students, and to use technology that the students are familiar with, so it wouldn't confuse them or cause them to be frustrated about learning how to use those technologies. So here I've identified 3 platforms that can be used to promote or to improve social-emotional learning in distance education. And the first one is Zoom. Teachers can use Zoom to encourage interaction among students, and also to provide some form of support to students. In breakout groups, students can be engaged in discussions, not only about schoolwork, but about their life, how they're doing at home, and so they know that they're not alone. The second platform is Google Forms, where teachers can create surveys to find out about students' emotional state, find out how they're doing using the surveys, and in this way they'll be able to know how students are doing and be able to address individual needs and help students improve their social emotional state if that is a problem, and also to provide support. And finally, emails. In this way, teachers can send personalized messages to students to sort of encourage them and to let them know that teacher is there for them and the teacher cares, even though they're far away from each other.